So just for your, just because you inspired this, Kate, and I'm so glad actually that you come at this through poetry, because I actually feel like poetry is the ultimate distillation of that magic, because you really have to make sure everything, not just the words, the rhythms, the spaces between the words, the organization is just perfect. And you have a little more elbow room in novels, which is fun, and but I have such admiration for poetry, poets who can do it. Well, this is the scene in The Ancient One where Kate has gone back in time through the great redwood tree that is the time tunnel. And it's the place where she has actually given up what she thinks is her only way back in order to save the life of her friend. Do you remember that? Her dear friend, Leonie, she thinks she's given away her only chance to get home herself, to do something for someone she loves. But it turns out, in fact, there is one other way home. But it requires doing the hardest thing she's ever done. She has to actually go to the Ancient One, the great tree, and allow herself to be scooped up by that tree and carried through time. In other words, she has to let go of being a girl, of being a human being, and actually become a tree. Much harder than anything she's ever done. Well, it ultimately begins to happen. And as she's in the boughs of this tree and in a little cavern in the trunk, she ultimately starts to feel that something's changing and something is stirring both around her and in her. And she hears the wind in the tree's branches, and then she heard something more. With all her concentration, she listened to a distant gurgling sound. It came from far below her, rising from the deepest roots of the tree. They are drinking, she realizes, drawing sustenance from the soil. Another sound joined with the rest, completing this pattern, making music rhythmic and delicate. Like an intricate fugue, it ran from the tips of the remotest needles all the way down the massive column of heartwood and through the filament of bark, back and forth, in and out, always changing, always the same. This was the sound, Kate realizes at last, of the tree itself breathing, the sound of air being exchanged for air, the sound of life being exchanged for life, breath for breath. Oh, great tree, said Kate in wonder. I feel so young, and you are so very, very old. Old, said the tree in return. Oh, I'm not so old as you think. The mountains, they are old. The oceans, they are old. The sun is older still, as are the stars. And by the way, how old is that cloud over there, whose body is made from the vapors of an earlier cloud that once watered the soil, then flowed to the river, then rose again into the sky? No, young lass, I am part of the very first seed, planted in the light of the earliest dawn, and so are you. So perhaps we are neither younger nor older, but truly the same age. Now a sweep of time swirls past, and you imagine Kate living through the life of this tree. There's a terrible forest fire, but the tree still stands. There's even an earthquake that rocks the grove, and some trees in the grove fall, but the tree still stands. There's a disease that rots the heartwood that attacks and passes eventually, and still the tree stands. And then there came one day, when a young doe and her fawn were grazing at the ferns at the base of the tree. And in that moment, suddenly, Kate hears something new, a sound unlike any other sound she had ever heard in the forest. It was piercing, it was screeching, banishing forever that feeling of stillness that she had known for centuries, it seemed. She felt a shudder, a scream of pain that erupted from her whole being. Stop, stop, please, go away, leave in peace. But the pain only deepened. The sound grew louder, and then she knew. This is the sound of chainsaws. That's not where the book ends, as you know. But if for a brief little moment there you felt like you were living through time in the tree, and maybe even felt like you yourself had a bit of tree in you, it's because of the magic of words. That's why. It's the magic of words. How can that be? I have no idea.